have John Shirley come up and introduce our speaker.
Rotarians and guests, you came to a good meeting today. It's been a lot of fun so far, and you're going to hear a good program right now. You know, the Livermore Premium Outlet was one of the most successful in the nation in just a few months of its opening in its class of very large outlet centers. Today we will hear about the impact on our community and the future of this facility from the Director of Marketing and Business Development. Our speaker was born in Syracuse, New York. He worked in the events planning industry and tourism in Delaware. He was a member of the Delaware Speakers Bureau and co-authored a comprehensive training program for workers on tourism and hospitality industry. He transitioned into the shopping center industry, working as the tourism director for Charter Oaks Partners, which managed 13 outlet centers in 12 states across the station. He then managed a large outlet center in Washington State and then to Orlando, Florida. In 2012, he moved to Discovery Bay to become Director of Marketing and Business Development at the Livermore Premium Outlet. Wherever he worked, he became very involved in community affairs and organizations and served the community in many ways, those communities in many ways. True to his nature, he's been very active in the Livermore Chamber of Commerce and is recently appointed as a board member of the Livermore Performing Arts Corporation, the owners and operators of Bankhead Theater. He has a great story to tell us. Please welcome Dave Ackerman.
So I'll blind you first.
All right.
Oops.
Get that one out of the way so I don't have my mouth open, a big piece of spinach or
yeah.
something from the salad. Great, thank you. Thank you very much for that welcome, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you today. I'm excited that I'm here and looking out at the sea of Hawaiian shirts. It fits very nicely into what I plan to talk to you about today, so I want you to realize that yes, we're all on a theme, and it must have been a little divine intervention because I couldn't have planned it better. As John explained to you, I'm an enthusiastic member of my community wherever I've lived, and I've lived in a lot of places, but I've had a great pleasure in understanding what the communities are about and pitching in many different ways. Most recently here, I was the chairman of the board of directors for Visit Tri-Valley, our local convention and visitors bureau, in addition to my time with the Livermore Chamber of Commerce and of course now LVPAC. So it's been a delightfully warm welcome for someone like me to come into a community and feel at home so quickly, and I really appreciate that. I want to talk to you a little bit about Livermore Premium Outlets. My guess is, as I look around the room, everyone has an opinion about the outlets, and I would be almost perfectly convinced that there are some people who may not be as enthusiastic in their support of the outlets coming to their community as others. And that is really typical of how communities react when a shopping center, especially an outlet center, comes to town. It's something that we're not as familiar with, it's something that we may not know very much about, or if we do, we don't always have the most positive opinion. Certainly, if you're watching the news recently, there seems to be, every few weeks, a big expose about what's really happening at those outlet centers and how are you being somehow manipulated to believe something that's not true. Well, as marketing director and director of business development, I'm going to set a little record straight just to start out with and tell you a little bit about what an outlet shopping center is all about. Way back in the day when I was little, outlet centers began really as factory outlets that oftentimes workers that were wearing uniforms produced either by the company that they worked for or a company in close partnership oftentimes couldn't afford those uniforms. The companies wanted to stop paying to supply uniforms, or better yet, the manufacturer made lots of mistakes and had lots of goods that they had nowhere to go with. That is really the genesis of the modern day outlet center. Those goods, oftentimes with pockets sewn in backwards, zippers that didn't work, legs that were two different lengths, were made available to workers at a substantially reduced cost, thereby kind of serving two needs. People who couldn't afford first-run uniforms for work were allowed to purchase second-run uniforms and make the best with them at a very reduced cost. And of course, manufacturers stopped wasting all those things and actually made a little bit of money back. And it was pretty obvious. If you got something that was trash and now you could get $1 for it, that's $1 you just got for free. It was really out of thin air. What a delightful idea. And anyone in manufacturing knows if you can turn your waste into a commodity, you've really done something. Years ago when I was in the hotel business, I worked for a company whose principals owned a company in Wilmington, Delaware called Byproducts. And I remember asking, what exactly is it that you do? And they basically took manufacturing waste and sold it to other manufacturers as raw goods. And so they took trash and sold it as raw materials, and it was revolutionary in the 1970s when they did it. Now we call that recycling, and everyone is encouraged to participate. So it's sort of just the way things are. Everything that once was of little value may soon come to have great value. But over the decades, the outlet industry has changed. I can remember way back in the late 1970s, when I was practically a toddler, I lived in Philadelphia, and we used to go to Reading to the outlets, because that's where the outlets were, and everybody went to Reading, and it was like the biggest thing ever. You gotta go to Reading and go to the outlets, and you got garbage. You just got crap there. It was unbelievable how many pairs of pants I had with 2 different sized legs. I always remember, will anybody notice, should I tuck this one into my shoe? And not being handy with the needle and thread, I couldn't work out how to get them right. Or my favorite was always the pocket that was sewn in backwards, because it doesn't sound possible, but trust me, when you put your hand in your pocket, it goes forward. Backwards pockets go backwards. It's very hard to work with. So, yeah, you could get a pair of pants for $6, but why, right? So that is no longer the case. And sometime around the 1980s, people started to realize that this was a great business. The problem with it then, as outlet centers started to kind of come into being, was that full-on retail, your malls had a real vested interest in keeping discount goods away from them. So you would get outlets in these ridiculously far-flung places that were nowhere near anywhere that anyone ever wanted to go. And so an outlet shopping trip was always an event. It wasn't like, oh, I just want to go around the corner to the outlets and grab something. It was like, let's get in the car and drive 2 hours, because there's 115-mile radius restriction on every brand that Macy's sells, that you can't sell it at a discount anywhere near full retail. And that's kind of how the outlets began, in these weird locations. And I was fortunate enough in the 1990s to take my tourism experience, and before that my event planning experience, and bring it to a small company who had 13 outlets in 12 states across the country, 12 outlets in tourism areas, 1 not so much. And I went there and said, look, you have no meaningful tourism program, and yet the only people who really shop your outlets are tourists. People are visiting Myrtle Beach or Hilton Head or Lincoln City, Oregon, or Foley, Alabama, going to the beach, being on vacation, coming to the outlets as a part of that vacation, and yet you don't have a meaningful tourism program that understands who your customer is. So fortunate for me, I don't know, I guess I was really charming, and they allowed me to create a program for everyone, steal a little bit of money out of everybody's budget, and create from the ground up a tourism program that was meaningful and understood just what our business was really all about. And then it's interesting, because once I got very ingratiated into tourism in this company, we sold all our properties to Tanger, our company was dissolved, I went to Prime Outlets, went to Washington, worked in the Canadian tourism market, bringing people from Vancouver. I never understood that, because when I went to Vancouver, it's one of the best shopping districts on the planet, and yet people were coming all the way into Burlington to shop at my little outlet center. So God bless the Canadians, and the fragility of the Canadian dollar back then really worked in my favor. But today, in 2014, the outlet industry is booming. It is a giant business. For those of you who can remember all the way back to 2006, retail was out of control. You could borrow money from your mortgage like nobody's business. There was nothing but available cash for everyone. It was a free-for-all. And working in retail at that time was delightful because nothing that you did ever didn't work out for you. You just had more people shopping, spending more money, and it was easy. In 2007, I went to Orlando, Florida to work in a full regional enclosed full retail mall, 1.2 million square feet under roof, and I like to say to people, I slid into the recession into Florida because there it was. As I was flying from Delaware to Orlando, everything fell apart, and by the time I got to the ground, it was over. And my mall went from being a beautiful center, one of Orlando's oldest enclosed malls and a very established retail environment, to an absolute pit. And what was great about my 5 horrific years there was learning about marketing and how going from a marketing budget of $870,000 annually to about $335,000 annually, which, by the way, only paid salaries, and the commitments that we had. There was no money for advertising, there was no money for events, I couldn't even buy pens. It was ugly, but what it also helped me do was develop as a professional into what the new world was in terms of marketing. That when I came into the business, if you could write a marketing plan and you understood how to buy media and what the impression cost was and how to buy column inches and all of those things, that was a really marketable skill. Today, no one even asks that question when you go for a job. Everyone wants to ask you about digital marketing and what do you know about social media. So it's a very different world. The outlet industry is very different because it is the only retail industry that is building. There hasn't been an enclosed mall built since 2011. Was the last opening in this country. It was a church-owned venture in Utah. Guess which church? And those are the only people who are interested in building a mall since 2007. However, there are 42 new outlet centers either open or on the books to open before 2016 in this country. Outlet centers have evolved in that they are no longer in the far-flung destinations that no one wants to go to. They are going everywhere you can find a critical mass of people and a highway that brings enough traffic to get people interested in what you have. In Livermore, your ground presents an outstanding opportunity, and anyone in the city planning office can tell you 9 painful years to birth an outlet center. You know, the gestation period for a human is 9 months. Apparently in Livermore, the gestation period for a shopping center is 9 years. So somewhere between human and way past elephant, I don't know, it's interesting. But through that process, as long as it was, what you wound up with is a beautiful, aesthetically stunning center. If you go to other markets and look at what's being built, you would understand how fortunate you are that the city of Livermore was very specific in their vision of what was going to happen in their town. But what I really want to talk to you today a little bit about is the impact that an outlet center, specifically Livermore Premium Outlets, has on a community, specifically the community of Livermore, because it's astounding. And if you aren't aware of it, hopefully after today, you will go home and say to somebody, I want to tell you something because I didn't know this. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that in 2013, and my company is very specific about how I share information, so I'm going to say it in this way because I'm allowed only to say it in this way in public. We were visited by between 6 and 9 million people. Low end at 6 million is pretty darn impressive. High end at 9 million is overwhelming. 6 to 9 million people came to Livermore in 2013 to shop at my outlet center. That is amazing. I want to tell you a little bit about who comes to visit the center, because I have to say, in all my years in the shopping center business, I am still overwhelmed by this bit of information. I'm going to read to you the list of countries of origin for people who stopped by my window at my information center and showed me their passport so they could get a free VIP coupon bin, which we sell for $5 every day. But if you're a member of AAA, if you come from out of the country with a passport, if you have military ID or a student ID, you get that for free. But in July alone, I'm going to read the list of countries that people stopped and said hello from. China, which should surprise no one. If you've been at my center and you don't understand how impactful the Chinese shopper is to the United States and to the economy of Livermore, wake up. The Chinese are here. Mexico, Korea, Brazil, Singapore, Canada, Egypt, the Philippines, Germany, Japan, the United Kingdom, Taiwan, Denmark, Malaysia, Australia, Norway, the Netherlands, the United Arab Emirates, India, Colombia, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Lebanon, Switzerland, Sweden, Turkey, Israel, Italy, Russia, Poland, Thailand, Austria, Peru, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Ecuador, Chile, Romania, Spain, Costa Rica, Jordan, Nepal, Pakistan, Qatar, South Africa, Vietnam, Belgium, the Czech Republic, El Salvador, and Kuwait. In July. Now let's think for just a minute what kind of impact that has on your community.
Really?
I understand that Livermore is world famous for Livermore Labs. Amazing. I'm impressed. I'm excited to be here. I know that people around the world know where the oldest existing, still operating light bulb is. Amazing. I know that Livermore has California's oldest and most established wine region. And by the way, the vast majority of wines consumed in this country are from clones from the Concannon family or the Wente family. Look, I got my facts straight. I've been here 2 years. I know all about it. But with all of the amazing things that happened in Livermore before 2012, do you think you got this many international visitors to your community?
How many was that? How many pictures did you do?
I don't know, I have to count.
52.
52, excellent, because I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm impressed every month. I have to do this list for a top-end report, and every month I think someone is gonna call me up and tell me I lied. Even in my company, this is amazing, right? But I think what's impressive to think about is what does the impact on Livermore mean to the community? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Look, I can tell you one thing I know for a fact. You may want to point to the outlet center and say, oh my goodness, they killed us with traffic. We didn't. You were dead already. 580 is a nightmare. God bless you people that get on that thing every day. I'm thrilled because from Discovery Bay to the center, I don't have to touch it. I drive over it and look at the parking lot and laugh, but I don't have to get on 580. But I can tell you, it's not just the number of people that are coming. It's the welcome to the world that Livermore now affords itself. You actually have the opportunity to exist on every corner of the globe. People go home and say, I bought this at Livermore Premium Outlets. I got this Ralph Lauren shirt for 20 bucks. It's amazing. And what's really exciting about that is the opportunity for economic development around the outlets. I haven't seen it yet. I'm a little disappointed in you all as a community. I'm waiting for you guys to understand the impact of 6 to 9 million visitors annually from all over the world and understand how do you get a piece of that action. Almost everybody that comes to the center still only comes to the center and then goes home. They're not even sure what Livermore is. They don't know you have a beautiful and vibrant downtown. They don't know that there's anything else to do in Livermore, despite our best efforts to help them understand that. I hope that we can change that. I hope my role in the community blends well with my role in my company and allows me some opportunities to drag you guys kicking and screaming into the fold, to make you a part of what's happening, not because it's the most exciting thing that ever happened. Lots of communities have outlet centers, but very few communities have an outlet center with an international reach in the way that Livermore has. It really is something. It's excellent ground for retail. And of course, as we move forward, and anyone who's driven by and seen the lovely construction site, it's hard to look at every day because the center's so beautiful, and now we have dirt and piles and trucks and construction cones, and it's hard to drive by every day because I think my beautiful center just looks like heck on the east side. But picture, you have 534,000 square feet of retail today. That is one of the largest first phase openings of an outlet center anywhere in the country, I can tell you that. Do your homework, Google it. It's amazing. Lots of centers expand 2 and 3 times and still aren't at 534,000 square feet of retail. It's an impressive number. What's more impressive is that we'll be adding 200,000 square feet and opening that in a year. I can't tell you today how many stores that represents because we're still in the leasing effort, and it all depends on what size spaces are broken down, and it's quite complicated. I wish I could start announcing brands and vendors that are coming, but we're not quite there yet, which isn't to say that my company hasn't made commitments. I'm just telling you, Dave Ackerman doesn't get the information until way late in the program. They know I can't keep a secret, and so until we're ready to publicly discuss it, they keep it out of my hands. It's probably smart that they do that. A little teeny bit about the company that you're working with that's now a member of your community, that's in your business, as it were. Simon is the owner of all the premium outlets across the country. We have 80 locations of premium outlets, we have a number of Mills properties, and a huge number of enclosed regional malls. We have 326 operating properties retail in the United States. That says nothing of our international centers. We have outlets in Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, Puerto Rico. It's an amazing footprint. It's a large company. It is the world's largest retail real estate development company. We are the only real estate development company on the S&P 100. It's a huge company. Working for Simon often is like working for the United States government, and I mean that, of course, in the best way possible. We have systems and processes that are unwieldy sometimes and makes it difficult to move. My position is often difficult because I don't get to be this great community player because I have this incredible structure. So when people call for donations, involvements, let us come on your property and do something, invariably my answer is really can't happen, we don't work that way. I want you to understand it's not that we're not committed to the community, it's just a different animal than you think it is. It's a very large company, constantly evolving, but again, lots of layers to get through, and sometimes you just can't break through. But very delightful to work for the company. We operate Stone Ridge Mall just in Pleasanton, and of course premium outlets in Folsom, Petaluma, Vacaville, Gilroy. I have to say I was in Kentucky at a conference for destination tourism marketing organizations last week, and I missed my first California earthquake because I was in Kentucky. So my phone was blowing up with messages and Facebook questions about did I make it through the earthquake, and I was very frustrated because I missed the earthquake. And if you're going to live in California, really, you need to say, yes, it was amazing, it scared me to death or whatever, but I didn't get that experience. But it was very interesting because then after our Napa premium outlets did really encounter some serious need for cleanup, then a couple of days later I saw where Gilroy was hit with a little earthquake, and I thought, oh, Napa, Gilroy, are we on the list? Are we coming to Livermore? My fingers are crossed. No, I'm fortunate. I live in Discovery Bay. I think I'm on silt, so I don't know that I'll ever feel a shake up there. I think being so close to the Delta. Look, all you people are like, you're gonna sink like a stone in the quicksand. But interesting to be here. I want to tell you that the outlet center, like you may have heard, many of our goods are manufactured directly for outlets. I don't know why that's so shocking to people. I don't know why that's a headline on the news. I don't know why hard-hitting investigative reporters are telling you, that's right, Ralph Lauren is selling manufactured for the outlets goods. Do you know how many outlet stores Ralph Lauren has? How do you think you can absolutely put goods into 100 stores across the country if you're not manufacturing for that retail outlet. Is it a less expensive process? Perhaps it is. I don't know. I see all apparel manufacturing in this country going to third world countries with pennies on the dollar in terms of labor costs. So whether it's manufactured for the outlets or manufactured for full retail, it's not manufactured in the United States. It's not manufactured by professionals who are making $50 an hour. I don't really understand the difference, and I don't really care. If it has the little Polo label on it, it's Polo, and I'm good with that. If Prada's stamped on the bag, it's Prada, and I'm good with that. And clearly, millions of other people feel the way that I do every year because they come and shop with us. Understand that in Livermore you do have some unique options that don't exist in other outlet centers. Some of the high-end tenants that you see in our center that you may not be as familiar with the brand, like for example, Brunello Cucinelli. Italian makers, everything Italian made, absolutely top of the line, and their goods do not get manufactured for the outlets. They don't have that large an operation. There are only a handful of Brunello Cucinelli stores in the world because, in terms of outlets, because all they're doing is liquidating goods that didn't sell last season. So excellent opportunities. Our Bloomingdale's outlet, one of only 12 Bloomingdale's outlets in the country, the only one in California, only sells overstock from full retail. So when you're in True Religion jeans in the Bloomingdale's outlet, they're not necessarily the same jeans that you'll find in the True Religion store, who is manufacturing to outlets. Does that mean that there's any lack of quality? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, in 2014, the quality in outlet centers is better than it's ever been. There's almost no such thing as an irregular or a second in an outlet center today. It just isn't the business model anymore. It's more like boutique shopping at a discount. And I can tell you this, you guys are very fortunate to live so close by. I wish you lived as close to the outlets as I do, because I'm there every day. So I wander through the stores several times a week and find the best bargains absolutely possible. And the reason is because not only do I not ever buy anything full retail, I don't buy anything full outlet price either. I wait until everything at the outlets is on sale, and then I strike. I'm telling, wait, I bought this watch 50% off retail. Did I think I got a deal? Yes. You know how I know I got a deal? Because I went to open Twin Cities outlets in Minneapolis, saw this watch at full price. Oh, I paid half that, thank you very much. So I always feel like a successful shopper. It's not just shopping, it's an adventure. And besides all of that, it's all about your community's opportunity to develop around something that you didn't have before, to introduce the whole world to all the richness that exists here in Livermore and the Tri-Valley, to welcome people from places you wouldn't even believe would come here and shop. Countries that I thought really hated all the capitalism in America are still represented on our list. I don't know, I'll admit it, I may be culturally ignorant. I just thought we were the big bad evil for certain cultures, and yet here they are scooping up the bargains at Coach. So I want to encourage all of you to embrace the outlets as an opportunity. Maybe you're not a shopper and maybe that's not appealing to you. But if you have a business, maybe you find a way to increase your bottom line. Maybe you start ringing cash registers of your own because you got millions of people just hauling into the center every year. I appreciate all of your attention. Feel free to call me or ask questions. Look, I have hands popping up already and I don't want to hold you.
We can take one question.
One question. How do you develop all that business overseas?
We develop business overseas in a number of different ways. Probably the most important thing to understand about the international draw at Livermore Premium Outlets is we're the closest center to San Francisco, a huge international destination. And so what happens is people from other countries are going to shop in America because that's what you do when you come here. And of course, if you can save money while you're shopping in America, that's also what you do when you come here. And at 36 miles from downtown San Francisco, Livermore Premium Outlets is the easiest way to get to a great outlet center. Not to mention the fact that we have iconic American brands that everyone grows up aspiring to. We're sort of used to it here, but people are so excited to see a Kate Spade store, or to see a Burberry store. They don't have these opportunities at home. And yeah, everybody can shop online, that's pretty simple, but there's nothing like getting in the store and immersing yourself in it. If you haven't been into the Burberry store, by the way, and you think outlets are ugly white boxes with concrete floors, some of them are. Go to the Burberry store at Livermore Premium Outlets and see the kind of money these retailers are putting into a build out for an outlet. It's stunning.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
And so you have your choice of